Hey guys, welcome to Badass Women's Wednesdays. I'm here with my fellow co-author, Erin Pellow. Hi, Erin. How are you today?
I'm great, Mia. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining me on this chat. How is it over there in Toronto, which is my hometown? Well,
It's pretty great. It's a little overcast today, but it's nice because it means I can actually open the blinds without overheating. So it's still pretty warm out, but the weather's still enjoyable. Still got summer for a little while.
good. It plummeted to like 15 degrees, and I don't know what to do with myself up here in Sudbury today. I forgot that this degree exists. And I guess by that slip up there, you can tell how I feel about colder weather. Not my favorite, for sure. But still, nonetheless, it's also been great today, so it's not been overly nice here. But it's supposed to go right back up tomorrow, hopefully, and stay like that for the rest of the year. I think that's hopeful thinking there.
Hey, you hold on to whatever you need to.
By like end of November when it's like -5 already, and I'm going, I got 4 more months of this. I'm gonna hold on to that for sure.
I know I don't know how you do Northern Ontario. I appreciate the lake effect for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, More affordable is probably my wording for that one. But it's a very great community up here. Lots of amazing people. So I can't. It's like a mini Toronto. So can't complain.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Erin, thank you again for joining us. Can you tell those viewing a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It's great to chat with you today. As I mentioned, and you mentioned, I'm from Toronto. So I live in the eastiest of the East End, near the upper beaches. And I love being close to the lake. I really love the beach and the water. I've always felt a really strong connection there. It's a great little neighborhood and community. Lots of stuff within walking distance, and if not, a short drive. And being in Toronto, it's nice and close to different towns, my parents and my family, so it's easy access to visit them as well. I love traveling. I love music. I love arts. I paint sometimes, so love the opportunity to be creative. During my 9 to 5, that's where I sort of feed my problem-solving, analytical side of my brain. I'm an operations analyst for a team of instructional designers. So our team partners with different faculty members and subject matter experts at different universities to help them put their courses and their curriculum online for degree programs. And I work behind the scenes to focus on how we work together as a team, how our team works with other teams, to make sure that we are collaborative, efficient, and effective. And then I also do things like budgeting, resourcing, project scoping. So a lot of really sexy spreadsheets that I get to create and work with. A little nerdy, but that's definitely a part of me. And then outside of that, I have a side project which fills a different part of my soul with connecting with other people. And I am a success coach. I am a master practitioner with NLP, and I have a company, Every Kind of Possible. So I work with different individuals and coaching them from taking their good life and elevating that to a great life.
Oh, that's really cool.
Thank
Very,
you.
and as we were discussing earlier, I'm also in online education in my 9 to 5. Um, so I definitely understand your working with spreadsheets skills, a lot actually. So that's super cool. And NLP is something I just recently learned about as well. So that's very cool. Um, so Erin, what made you decide to become an author and write in Fuck Fear?
I think becoming an author is something that's been sort of in the back of my brain for a while. I really enjoy being creative, whether it's, in the emails I'm writing at work. I got to send some really boring ones, so anything I can do to spice those up. I traveled after university, and so I had a travel blog, and people seem to enjoy reading that. And I've had some friends and family kind of nudging me, as something that I might be good at. But it wasn't really something that I gave a lot of credence to, and it was sort of a if, when, maybe someday sort of lofty dream. And then earlier this year in January, I was taking a course and we were given a board and sort of tasked with drawing out our dreams and our goals and making it as big as possible and adding some visuals to that. And I just found myself drawing a little stack of books and writing best-selling books by me. And fast forward a couple of months, and through the wonders of social media, I saw the opportunity to contribute to Fuck Fear, and the timing was, can't really argue with that. This is a clear sort of sign from the universe. And the title was perfect, Fuck Fear, which is something I definitely have to do to be able to jump into that. I loved the cover. She had black and red hair. I have black and red hair. And I also knew someone else who had published another book with the same publishing company. So it just felt like the universe was coming together and sort of jumping up and down, being like, here, this, now. So I just jumped in with both feet.
Oh, very cool. We both have in common of doing a travel blog when we're in our younger years.
So much easier than writing all the emails, right? Just one story, one place.
I used to, besides Sexy Fearless Fierce, I used to have another actual blog where I was like, hey guys, I did this in London. I found this little cute coffee shop. Oh my God, the cute Sicilian boy that coffee in the Teddington Starbucks type of post. So that's really neat. And same, again, we actually something else in common where we knew somebody who was publishing who kind of got us connected with the book, and friends and family encouraging to write. So it's really cool. I'm glad you did, because it's really neat to meet you. And
yeah, you too. It's so cool when you bring in a group of strangers and then you have these similar connections, where we may not have met otherwise. So it's always cool to see those things come together and have a chance to meet new people and see those connections.
Yep. And then for those watching, I think we chatted probably online before the pre-launch, but then we actually met in the pre-launch and got to actually meet face to face. And honestly, you're such a sweetheart.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you.
Awesome. And all the other authors too. Everybody's
That's a great group.
Yeah, very, very good group. So I think we're quite an amazing bunch. And so, yeah, I'm glad you decided to become an author, Erin.
Thank you.
So going into that, how was your experience as a first-time writer? What did you like about the process, and what did you find absolutely challenging?
I think overall it was a really fantastic process. There were absolutely parts of it that were tough, that were challenging. There were tears at some point. But overall, the entire experience was, everything came together and it was exactly what I needed it to be. And I love being able to look back and reflect on it in that way. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't really have an idea of what I was going to write about. I was just jumping in with 2 feet. So I think that was sort of an obstacle in the beginning, is where do I even begin? I got a whole life here and it's just one chapter. Where do you even start? And so I sort of felt like being back in university again, starting that paper and that blank page sort of staring back at you. And, I just started writing whatever was coming out, just kind of went with it. And I felt like I'd get into a bit of a groove and be like, all right, this is coming together. And then I'd sort of read it and reflect on it a little bit. And I think the biggest struggle I had was sort of a feeling of insignificance. As I read my story, I should back up a little bit. I think in that my goals for this were, I wanted to be authentic and I wanted to be vulnerable, and I wanted to write something that people could resonate with and that it would help them in some way, shape, or form. So as I'm reading my story, I was just like, is anyone going to care about this? Is this even helpful? Is there a value add here? And that was a big struggle for me, because as I look at my life, I'm a very lucky woman. I've had a very privileged life. I grew up in Canada. I've had my ups and downs. I've struggled with depression. But overall, I just feel like I don't have a lot to complain about. And I don't feel like I've come up against this huge obstacle that I had to overcome, which would, result in what I sort of imagine as this triumph story, that we see so often in other books and the media and in movies and stuff like that. So I was feeling a little insignificant, and that was really holding me back. So like in most things, I was getting in my own way. But I think what was really the turning point for me was remembering something that someone had said to me years ago, was that at the root of it all, we're all afraid of the same things, and it just manifests in different ways. And I think that's really evident in our book. We all have different stories, but at the root, we're all afraid of the same things, whether it's being insignificant, being unloved, feeling unworthy, not good enough, powerless. You know, that's where the connection made. And so I just sort of took a step back and, you know, let go of my ego a little bit and went back to my goals. And I just, you know, I wanted to be authentic and vulnerable. So I just allowed myself to just tell my story, whatever it was. Stopped comparing my story to the other authors whose stories I hadn't even read yet, and just sort of, or laid it all out there. Which I think sort of led me to my next challenge as I kept writing and writing, and it's just a chapter, so a lot of stuff sort of got left out. But the other thing I really wanted to be mindful of was not hurting anyone's feelings. Obviously, you know, it's my story, but there's other characters in that story. And, you know, some people are no longer in my life, but some of those people are still in my life and are, you know, very likely going to read this. And I wanted to be mindful that I was acknowledging those moments and how I experienced either events or things that happened, words that were said to me, and how I interpreted them through my eyes and through my model of the world, while at the same time not unnecessarily passing blame or shaming those individuals, you know, when it just didn't need to happen. So I think I really got in touch with, that's where my catharsis piece came in, sort of just writing out all the anger and the hurt and all of that kind of stuff, and at least getting it out on paper, and then arriving at a place where I could feel more neutral about it. These things happened. It helped shape me for better or worse. And at the end of the day, I think better when you can reflect on all those things and move through some of that stuff. So for me, it was just really, like I said, coming back to neutral and saying it in a way that acknowledges it. It helps to contribute to the story, with letting go of the pieces that didn't need to be in there. So that was a struggle, but in the end, I think I handled it really well. And I really got a lot out of it, not only in that process, but it really reconnected me with journaling, which I think is such a healthy habit for people to be in, you know, on a regular basis, to just write out stuff as it comes up, deal with it, get it out of you, you know, and if it's something you can sort of hash through on your own, great. And if not, it sort of identifies the pieces where maybe you need to reach out and have some of those tough conversations that growing up as a child, as a teenager, I just wasn't comfortable having. So I think that was in sort of a side reflection and great learning from this experience as well.
And so I wanted to touch on something about you were saying earlier in this question about how you felt like your story was insignificant
Yeah.
because you didn't have a triumph story. And that jogged my memory of something someone told me. It doesn't matter if how big or how little, you know, uh, a trauma, or in this case, somebody who says something
Mhm.
uh, to you that's very hurtful is still considered a trauma. It doesn't matter how big, it's small it is. So you don't have to have like an escape story or whatnot. It could be, you know, struggling, just feeling worthy and whatnot. It's very, very important. So I just wanted to
Yeah,
let.
absolutely. And I totally agree with you. And it was such a good thing to remind myself, because it's one of those things that, you know, it's not something you can always feel. And so it was a good thing to remind myself. And as I was saying, as it manifests in different ways, there are people that need to hear my story, because, you know, as much everyone that reads it is going to resonate and connect with different stories, or all of the stories, or pieces of each story. And so by us all being different and having those different experiences and sharing them, it just allows those opportunities for everyone to be able to connect. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think it was a good thing for me to sort of remember and realize and make that head heart connection, which I think sometimes we
It's,
struggle with.
yeah, and I've read your story, and there's very, very, very real struggles that people have that can definitely relate. That is very, very significant. That doesn't have to be about, you know, leaving, in my case, leaving an abusive relationship,
Mhm.
or, you know, um, a very challenging mental health issue. It could be um, that, and it's still very significant. So you touched a little bit on body image.
Mhm.
And then, as you stated earlier, feelings of depression. These are very, very common and real things that everybody feels. And because we don't ever really talk about it in society, a lot of people feel like they're the only ones that feel it. And so I think with your story, it could resonate very, very much with people who maybe didn't have, again, never been in an abusive relationship, never um, experience certain things that maybe we have.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to let you know that, and I'm so glad that you know you found that you were significant, because definitely your story is very significant, and
Thanks, Mia.
that was really, really, and I think that was a really good point that you brought this up, because a lot of us do feel like, well, nobody's going to want to listen to my story. I don't have anything interesting to it. Everybody's story has something, and everybody will listen to it. Um, So I just wanted to add that in there.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and also I think we talked about it earlier with having people in a story,
Mhm.
you know, and I think um, you know, even myself, I had some people who are still in the story who are still in my life today, and um, they weren't they didn't do anything in this story, but they were part. You know, they introduced me to my ex-partner,
Mhm.
or you know they were there when stuff was happening, so you know
Right.
that, and so you know wording it so you know if they said something hurtful, you didn't want to go and place blame, but you didn't want to decrease the significance of what they said. So I think those were really, really good points that you brought up there as
Thank
well.
you. Yeah, they were definitely really big takeaways for me. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your hopes for our book, which, by the way, guys, if you haven't been watching this and your first time watching this, or you haven't seen our posts, we've made international bestseller. Woo!
Woohoo.
Woo! On our launch day, so which is awesome. But what are some of your other hopes for our book?
Well, it's definitely an item checked off the bucket list or my vision board that I was talking about earlier. Um, I think two big things, and I mentioned in my goal in writing is I wanted it to have an impact for people. I wanted it to be the words that someone needs to read when they need to read them, and help them to feel in solidarity with someone else who's been through something similar, or have pieces that they can identify with, and hopefully find something encouraging about it, that helps them to move forward, or challenge themselves, or confront a fear that they didn't think they could. So it's a lot of fearless women in their group. And I think one of the biggest things that we did is that we gave ourselves permission to tell that story and to share. And I hope by doing so that we give other people permission to tell their story. And sometimes it's as simple as telling yourself your story. You know, we repress a lot of things, and we avoid them, and we don't confront them even within ourselves. So giving people permission to really take a look at those things and work through things that maybe they were afraid to earlier, or sharing that with close people within their circle, or doing something crazy like publishing their story. Whatever it is, just giving themselves permission to sort of feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yep. And a lot of and this has been a theme in or conversations I've had since, or even just before the release of Fuck Fear, about how much we don't talk about uh, our stuff in society.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about it earlier before we were recording, um, about how we don't talk about say like your case, depression openly. Um, my case, same thing. Didn't talk about abuse openly. Not that I would go out and scream it, but
Mm-hmm.
even open enough to my own close people who I put in details in my chapter that nobody knew. Um, so bringing that back to your point about giving ourselves permission to write the book, or giving ourselves to write our story or say our story, I think is very healing for anybody to to heal from themselves from their story. Um, so I think that's a really, really great thing that you just mentioned there about having that permission, and kind of hoping that by us doing it, maybe it will pave the way for other people to not even, they don't have to publish a book, but start speaking to people closer in their lives about kind of how they're feeling and struggling. And, um, in my case, when I was 23, that would have really, really helped.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, uh, if I could have openly talked about what we now know as PTSD, um, and I think that would have been really, really helpful if I had known at 23 that it was probably safe to talk about it more to people, um, be open,
Abs-
not be so like hidden, I think.
yeah, absolutely. I think as humans, we want to be heard, and sometimes we just want to be listened to. And prior to being in instructional design, I was in student support services, so adults working through their degrees and having families and different challenges and stuff. And I'd be on the phone with them for hours sometimes, and they just want someone to listen. And I think by telling our stories, we're identifying ourselves as 14 women that are willing to listen, because we're listening to each other, and we're acknowledging that there are these things that are going on behind the scenes, that aren't part of the highlight reel necessarily. And I start my chapter with acknowledging, that I cried at work and my coworker laughed because she was in shock,
Yep.
because I had this persona at work, and this is who I am, and I have my shit together, and I know my stuff. And the fact that I had this other side to me was a really big shock to her, and she just didn't know how to react. So I think,
Yeah.
just offering that opportunity to listen to people and what they have to say, I just think goes such a long way.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people didn't know. And I'm going to bring up a little bit of an intense part of my chapter here. So those who are watching this, if you are triggered, maybe best to plug your ears for a second. Um, a lot of people didn't know that I overdosed on a whole bunch of pills and really wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
um, because they always viewed me as I can get through it, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
strong. And I'm going, there was at one point where I woke up in the ICU and then another ward in London, in London, England. And I purposely did that. I knew what I was doing. I did not want to wake up. I didn't tell anybody that. Uh, I just blamed it that I took too much because I wanted to stop, but really I knew what I was doing. I was hoping it would.
Mm-hmm.
Thank thank God it didn't. Um, so when people have read that, or they heard me when I finally started opening up a little bit before the book, they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know. I honestly didn't know, because you seem like you have everything together, because now you own a house, you're doing this, you're doing that." And I'm going, "No." And they're like, "Well, at 23, I thought, I knew you may a little bit of struggling, but I didn't think it would be that bad, or I thought you could handle it, you're so strong." And I'm going, well, I really wish I had somebody to talk to about that, um,
Mm-hmm.
instead, like, and I don't mean there was mental health professionals, but I mean somebody on a peer level, not
Yeah,
just
and
on that. So
it's amazing sometimes too how close we are to people and the things that we don't know about them, oftentimes because we just don't ask. You know, we
yeah,
don't have those conversations. We ask about the weather or how was your day at work, or you know, and one of my good friends and I, we joke about it. I'm not great at small talk. Like, I like to jump into the real stuff. Like, what are your
yeah.
hopes and dreams? What are you doing with the world? And
Mhm.
we don't do that on the regular with people. We don't always have those meaningful conversations. And so, um, you know, I hate that you went through those things and felt those alone. And I'm so proud of you and so honored that you're sharing those things now, because I think it's going to be so helpful for other people who are feeling exactly like you were.
Yeah. And that's why I've started the blog and decided to write and want it we're so the next 23, 53, 83-year old who is contemplating suicide, um, who's gone through isolating things or anything. And again, you don't have to be in the same situation. It could be quite quite different,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not feeling isolated. And I think this is what I hope with this book. It's gonna really open up conversation within my circle of friends, your circle of friends, and really kind of say, hey, I've been feeling like this, or, let's say somebody we know, or hey, you know what, I've been really feeling like this. Can I talk to you? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
part of just breaking the isolation of how we are in a society really can save people's lives. And there's many ways. It don't have to be just suicide. It could be in a form of an eating disorder, depression, not taking care of yourself, and really, really struggling. We can prevent a lot of that just by opening up with each other and saying, you know what, I have experienced this too. Um, because you can learn from other people. You can figure out uh, what they've tried. Did it work for them? Maybe it worked for you. Um, how to overcome a whole bunch of stuff, or just having that factor of you're not the only one is a huge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you're not the only one who felt. I don't know for you, but you know when somebody opened up about I did something similar, or I felt or I thought the same thing, it felt way less isolating. Um,
Absolutely. I think that's been my favorite part. And you and I talked about this earlier, and you shared someone had sent you a note or had a conversation with you and talked about how much the book had impacted them and made a change for them. And that's been my favorite part, is really some of the unexpected conversations and people reaching out. You know, obviously it feels great to be like, I read your book or I enjoyed it. But the pieces that have really hit home with me is having unexpected conversations with sometimes expected people and sometimes unexpected people, for them to be like, this is what I read, this is how I felt, and I wanted to share this with you, or I felt like I could share this with you. I got one email that was kind of like, you didn't ask for this, but here's my feelings and reaction, and how what you're saying is really aligned with what's happened in my life. And that's exactly what I wanted to be able to do. And I think it feels so great, to be, and rewarding to be able to do that. It's another goal that I've met, whether it's one person or 100 people that we're able to reach.
yeah,
It's so worthwhile.
exactly. And that's yeah, and that's why we kind of did this. So we reach all those people and get talking and getting people opening up the dialogue to get help and for people to get help and doing that. So yay.
Yay.
Woo! So, Shreya, what are some of the other professional projects that you are currently doing or planning to do in the near future? So,
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, I am a success coach. So, I work with individuals to help them elevate their lives from good lives to great lives. And for all those badass women or men watching this today, I'd love to extend an offer, for an introductory session with me. Normally it's $120, but if you reach out to either Mia or myself, we'll include my contact information somewhere. And mention this video, I'll do it for $75. So normally it's $120, but I'll offer it at $75. And for future projects, I'm really excited. It's very much in the incubation phase right now and a lot of brainstorming. But I'm looking to find a way to create some curriculum. So kind of bring together my 9 to 5 with my sort of soul-driven side hustle, to bring those two things together. So I want to design some curriculum that will help other people within my community and hopefully my growing community to take their expertise. So what they're working on, whether it be healing, manifesting, coaching, whatever it is that they're passionate and excited about and want to teach other people about, put that online in a way that's really effective for learners. You know, we're on our phones all the time, very social media, very quick. Want to have things, you know, in small little packaged pieces. So I want to help people take all their really juicy, great information and put it in a way that's really accessible for people who are working, families, parents, have lots of commitments on the go. So really make those connections. So that's something I'm sort of incubating right now. So stay tuned for more about that. But it's a project I'm really excited about.
Oh, that's awesome. And I was mentioning this earlier, online is one of the biggest ways now people are doing courses. So I think that would be an awesome idea.
It's how I'm doing courses. So I did my whole
Same here.
master's degree online. So
Same here. I'm in a university right now studying social work. So that's how I do it too. So I think that's going to be awesome. And guys, what Erin was mentioning, I'll also put into the Badass Women's blog post as well about.
Awesome. Thanks, Mia.
You're very welcome. About the offer. So, Erin, would you be able to give kind of the viewers a little bit of a brief synopsis of your chapter and what you would like readers to take away?
Yeah, absolutely. So my chapter is called Just One Thing, and I believe it's on page 173. And it is about a girl, average girl, this one, who grew up following all the rules, doing everything I was supposed to, and somehow woke up as an adult and not being exactly where I thought I was going to end up. It wasn't the sort of dream that I imagined for myself. And sort of just reflecting on how I got there and feeling really stuck, and realizing that I'd created a lot of negative emotions and limiting decisions that were really stopping me from moving forward, and sort of discovering what those were and seeing how they manifested in terms of body image issues and how that just sort of compounded everything, and how I just got to a point where I was like, enough is enough. I felt very overwhelmed by being in a place where I wanted to change everything and didn't know where to start. So I ended up changing just one thing. And it was something that I never thought I would do. And sort of in the theme with, I don't want to give it away, but just in the theme of fuck fear, I did it anyway. And it ended up being the one thing that changed everything. I'm still very much a work in progress, but I will be for life. Because, you know, we're always dreaming for bigger and better and the next thing and pushing and challenging ourselves to go further. So that's just part of the path that I'm on. But I'm in such a different place than I was a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and just sort of the growth through those places. So, and at the end of the day, like I said, it's my goal that it resonates with someone in some way. And if you can find, as a reader, your one thing that changes everything, it's just as amazing. How you do one thing is how you do everything, and the impact that can have on your life, no matter where you are. I think that's something that's really important to me in my practice. You know, whether it's my 9 to 5 or in coaching or how I approach life in general, is from a really holistic approach, meeting you where you are and figuring out where you can go from there. And so this is one thing that allowed me to do that. So hopefully that's enough of a teaser for you to entice you to go out and get the book if you haven't already. But
yes, and go get it, guys. I actually do have a copy on my dining room table right now that I could run.
I have some on my dining room table too. We're such kindred spirits, man.
Here we go. Yeah, my order just came in today. So I think I've shown it on multiple videos, but I'll include another picture of it. Get it, guys. It is It's a pretty badass book.
Absolutely. Lots of stories and a lot of things to relate to. And, I talked about it earlier, like at the root of everything, there's a lot of solid connected themes. And I think you said, Mia, there's, some stories that may really hit home with you, but there's something that you can relate to in a piece of everyone's story, which is really great. And as a reader, just felt really great too. I know it was something I brought home and dove into right away.
Yep, same. I've read all of our stories. Well, and mine, but um, and we're all, again, there's all even little things that I could relate to in each story. We were talking about this a bit earlier. I related to yours with body image. I had a little bit of a struggle with that myself, uh, with how I was looking, and so again, every story, there's something that we can relate to. So whether it's um, body image, car accident, etc., leaving an abusive relationship, mental health issue, anything along those, anything pretty much that's in the book, we can all kind of relate to it.
Absolutely.
It's really neat dynamic. So get the book, guys. Um, you can always ask myself or
I got,
Erin.
I got a couple extra.
There we go. Just extra. You can always ask us. We can direct you where to get it. You can also get it through us. So if you haven't done it already, do it. Um, it will definitely be worth your while as well. So Erin, I want to thank you for joining me today in this chat. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we end this today?
Just really thank you for having me. It's been so great. I haven't seen you in a little while, so it's been great to reconnect with you. And I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you and tell a little bit more about my story. And I think I would just encourage anyone and everyone to go out and read this, and I hope that you got something out of it. And if you have any questions, like I said, I'll give Mia my contact information so you can reach out to me, or you can reach out to Mia and connect us. I'd love to hear from you. It's been really, like I said, it's been one of my favorite things to be able to chat with people who, have found something that they resonated with. And, as we were talking about earlier, if there's something you want to talk about that you need someone to listen to, I'm happy to be that person as well. So thank you so much for having me, Mia. It's been really great. And I'm glad to have a chance to connect with you again as well.
Oh yeah, and same as well. I don't know. Everybody watching, we connected at the pre-book launch, and then we built a playhouse together
Yes, we did.
in very hot weather, which was amazing experience. So yeah, it's been really good to connect with you, and thank you again for joining me today on Badass Woman Wednesdays. And we'll definitely connect again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. Well, Erin, thank you again, and we're going to end this today, but have a really great rest of the week.
Thanks. You too.
All right. And I will definitely be in contact with you soon. And everybody, thank you so much again for watching and being so supportive of Badass Woman Wednesdays. I appreciate it. The authors appreciate it. So thank you guys again for watching. And sorry, Erin, you're about to say something. I think
I've already lost it, so that's okay. How quickly things escape my mind these days. I think, I know, I was going to say, I said I've watched some of the other videos as well. So if you haven't had an opportunity to watch the other Badass Wednesday videos, definitely do so, because there's lots of great women and I've enjoyed the videos as well. So definitely keep watching.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you again, Erin. Have a great night.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.